Everybody, Invisiblekatana here with my review for season 1 of Revisions, the latest. I assume it's the latest Netflix original anime. They pump out so many originals, anime or otherwise. I don't really know, but I'm pretty sure it just came out late last week. Of course, with this being a full season review, there will be spoilers, but naturally, I'll let you guys know when I'm going to get to the spoiler half of this review. But just jumping right into it, really loved it. Thought it was a really good anime. Time travel is always entertaining. There's time travel. It's always a big deal. It's actually a big deal across the board. Games, movies in the States, anime, it's time travel is always huge. I think they did a good job here. It wasn't too much involved with, like the whole thing being involved with like time travel, like people going back and forth a bunch. It was really just like, boom, here you go. They're in this time, and then it's like, how do we get back? I like that idea. And I guess for anyone who's watching this who hasn't seen the show, just to give you like a super quick summary, as all anime goes, teenagers are the heroes, but it revolves around the entire city of Shibuya being teleported like 300 years into the future. They're in like 2330 or something like that. And like I said, as all anime go, these kids, specific group of kids, are the ones that are meant to be the heroes that kind of save everyone and get everyone back to their own time. I like that idea, but the entertaining thing about it was really the characters themselves. Specifically, the main character, Daisuke, if I'm remembering the pronunciations correct, because it's Daisuke, their one buddy, Keski, or something like that. I don't remember. But Daisuke is the main character. I liked him. He was entertaining because he was the character where in most stories it's like, okay, this is the character that's going to help everyone. They're the hero. They're the one who grows to be this great, amazing person who gets all the, if it's shonen at least, they get like every effing power that there is to survive. And in this case, this is the guy who knew that he was going to be that person because he was told that. And so going into the future, or just living his life, really going up to the point where they actually do get sent into the future, his whole life was like, all right, I was told that this thing was supposed to happen, and something horrible was supposed to happen. They didn't know what it was, and he was the only one out of his group who was like, well, I was told I was the one that saves everybody, so I can't let that go. Everyone else kind of grew up and was like, yeah, it happened, it was weird, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. We were kids. It was this weird thing that happened, and I won't go into all the details of that, of course, but he was the one who was like, well, I was told my destiny was to save everybody. And that's how he lived his whole life. And he kind of came off as a douchebag, but at the same time, he was like, I'm only doing this because something horrible is supposed to happen, and I got to be the hero. I have to train and survive and help my friends and eventually help everybody. And then it's like, poof, the whole city's thrown 300 years into the future, and they're fighting like crazy killer robots and stuff. And I was like, okay. And he has his destiny now. And it was interesting watching a character who, as a little kid, was told that. So it was almost like he was indoctrinated a little bit, but not really, because it was what happened. Like, a horrible thing happened. He was meant to be the savior, but that went to his head. But at the same time, it didn't go to it. It was like a really interesting balance, because it was like, you can't say he's a cocky douchebag, because he wasn't really cocky about it. He was just like, everyone's kind of mad because he was always, his friends get into like the tiniest bit of trouble. He'll like drop kick somebody, and it's like, I gotta protect my friends. So he comes off as a bit of a douchebag because he would kind of go over the top in like normal situations. But then it's like, oh, well, all that preparing he did, him living in that moment as a child, finally paid off because he was meant to be the savior. And, he's the main character. He's the one who gets to do all the cool stuff. And it was like, well, it makes sense. Unfortunately, him doing that continues even after it's like, here's your destiny. And that's where it gets slightly annoying. I would say it's only 12 episodes, so I'd say technically the first third, if you go by 4 episodes a piece, super annoying, because he would do it like 5 times an episode where, and it technically persists mostly throughout the whole series, where it's like, I'm in charge, like he had to be the leader because it was his destiny to be the hero and stuff. It was like, I'm amazing, and like, I'll show you my power right now. He was always like going off the handle, even though he finally got to that point. Him growing up in, basically just living his life like a normal person, he would always go off the handle because he always lived in a situation, like 99% of his life was him just living a normal life but going off the rails. And then he gets to the point where it's like, oh, my destiny's actually here. But he's still that dude that keeps going off the rails. So it's like, you're at that point you were training for, but you still act like the person that you always been, because it was like in his head, like he was warped to be the big hero, and he got that complex, and it was really interesting. So I think they did a good balance, and it gets better as it goes on, because like I said, the first like 3 or 4 episodes, he says it so much, and he says it, like I said, throughout the series. But I do think they handle it well. I like the other characters. One random reference: there's two twins. There's Lou and Guy. As soon as I saw Guy, I thought of Leon Kennedy from the Resident Evil franchise. I was just like, all I can see is Leon because of how the dude's hair was styled. That was literally it for that guy. But I like the characters. I like the way they were handled. I think everyone gets a decent moment to shine. Either they have a lot of screen time, or they at least have really big moments where they'll either figure something out that's like a huge plot point, or they'll just have an emotional moment that like really sticks out, within, it's only 12 episodes. So like one big point within just, 12 episodes, you can kind of pick them up and be like, okay, I'll definitely remember that within these, 12 episodes. So I like the way it was handled. It does get a bit gory. It's not super crazy though. Like there's blood, and I thought it was gonna get more intense based off of the first episode. And if you watch it, which I highly recommend, you'll see what I mean. But I was like, okay, I was waiting to see like where the scales were gonna be, and then there's like a very specific moment. I was like, I think it's about to happen, and then it does, and so I was like, okay, I see where we are now. But it gets bloody, but it's not like crazy over the top. It's not like Parasite. If anyone's seen Parasite Maxim, that anime gets like super crazy. People get like sliced up. It's not that intense, but there is blood in it. But I like the story. I thought it was entertaining watching the characters kind of go through the issues that they're going through, where it's like, how do we survive this situation? How do we get everyone, back to our own time? How do we get our entire city back to 2010, I think is where the anime actually takes place in, or 2017, sorry. And I think that has to do with the fact that I'm just assuming this. The original manga, I'm assuming, came out in 2017. That's just my only assumption for it. I haven't like looked up anything like that, but most of the Netflix original anime that they are based off of actual manga. So it's not like they made them. They are actually based off of manga. They're just, they're called Netflix originals because you can only get them like in the States, at least, on Netflix. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. It doesn't have any real bearing on the story. So like I said, that's the main reason I think it's just based off of when the manga came out. It was just 2017. So it was like, all right, well, let's just keep it. Even though it's a brand new anime, they didn't bother changing it. It was just like, it's still 2017 and that's it. So it has no real relevance. That was just something I noticed because they do like a little flashback and it was like, 7 years ago and it was 2010. And I was like, well, that's weird. Like, why is that the case? So it was interesting, but it has like no real bearing on the story. It might in the future. I don't know if that's an effect like within the manga or anything like that. But I was like, okay, that's interesting. But really enjoyed it. I feel like there's excuse me, not much else I can really say without getting into some of the spoilers for it. But I highly recommend it. I think it's a good action anime, I was really entertained by the story, just trying to figure out like how is this gonna play out. And there's some elements, especially I'd say, with it being 12 episodes, it had to be maybe the halfway point. I think when it hit episode 6, like there's a very specific thing that happens where I was just like, I didn't see that one coming. And then it changed, then it really gets into some of the crazy time travel stuff. And I was like, all right, there it is. It starts to go through like, jumping back and forth in time and stuff like that. And it gets super, and it's not complicated crazy either. It was actually really simple. It was just like, okay, well, time travel works like this. If you can travel through time, it makes sense that you could do this thing. We just hadn't seen that thing happen yet because it's based on time travel. So I was like, it's actually super simple. It makes perfect sense. It was just like, I wouldn't have seen that coming. It was just a crazy twist of how everything kind of played out. So I like that idea. I like how it was handled. Like I said, I highly recommend checking it out. I don't know if this will get a season 2. Like pretty much any anime, it's basically like the first arc of the manga series. So they do like the first arc and then it ends, but you can tell that there could potentially be a season 2. So I hope it gets one. I would highly recommend it. So I definitely say, check it out. If not, I'd say it's a nice condensed story. But there's some stuff that happens where it's like, okay, they can clearly that's going to go into a season 2 if we end up getting one, which I hope we do. Every anime I've watched has been canceled. So I don't know, at least all the Netflix ones. Like I've watched, Kuro Makuro, that got 2 seasons, which technically was just the first season split into 2 parts. I realized that. So that got canceled, which I guess technically the anime got canceled as a whole, not just on Netflix, but that was gone. Ajin got like 2 seasons, and I think they've canceled that. I haven't heard anything recently, so maybe that could still be getting a season 3. I would love to see that. But yeah, that one's been canceled. And then there was another one, which it was like Knights of Cydonia. That got 2 seasons, also got canceled. And I was like, dang, that really sucks. So every time I keep jumping on them, they keep getting canceled, which also always seems to be all the 3D anime ones, which this one also is. But I think this one looks the best. I think they've gotten to the point where, animation wise, it's almost like, the best example I can really give would be like the Naruto Ninja Storm games, where it's such a good 3D representation of a 2D anime. It's like, man, that is how you want to see 3D animation done for like anime video games, because it looks so close to the actual anime. Either that or, Dragon Ball FighterZ. Same thing. Like, it's technically 3D, but it's done so incredibly well that it just looks totally 2D. But those characters are done in like 3D models. So I think it looks like that as far as this anime. I think they've kind of finally hit their stride where it's like, that just looks perfect. I don't know if it's the same company either as the other 3D anime that we've seen on Netflix, but this one I think looks the best, where it's just like, I know it's 3D, but it just looks perfect. Like, just the way it's done is that perfect mesh between like, you can tell it's 3D, but it's not like too three-dimensional where it's like, it just sticks out too much and it looks a little weird because it's obviously 3D. Is that perfect blend. It's like, I can tell that's 3D, but if they stand still, it looks 2D. So I think they hit their stride with that one. Like, whatever the animation company is, I think they did this one perfectly. I'd say this is the best like 3D anime I've actually seen. So I loved it for that. Another random thing, if you've happened to travel to Japan, I recently went like a few weeks ago. It's legitimately the city of Shibuya. So like, Shibuya Crossing is in it, and they have like the Hachiko dog statue, and you can look some of this stuff up, but they have like legit points within Shibuya. Like, they even show some of the subway lines, and they'll say like it's the Ginza line and this and that, and I was like, I literally was on some of those subway lines. So I thought that was really cool. Like, it's legitimately like, this is what Shibuya looks like, and I was like, that's awesome. So thought that was cool. They have some other real life stuff in there. They have like Lawson's, which is a big thing in Japan, but of course they have to change the name. It's like when you see I guess here it would be like CBS or something. They would have to change the letters because they can't put the actual company. So it was like Pawson's or something instead of Lawson's. They were drinking like Itoen tea, which is huge over there. They did have black coffee, which if you look it up, I think Tommy Lee Jones is the dude who does like a bunch of commercials for that. I think that's the actual name. It's called black coffee. So they may have had like a slight sponsorship or some sort of deal with that, because I think that is the actual name. It's just called like black coffee. But everything else is like, it didn't have the labels, but I was like, that's clearly like Itoen tea. But I love that. I thought it was really cool. It's nice to see. It's kind of like, for anyone who knows the anime, same thing. Like, it's Ikebukuro. You can, like, that location is a real life location. They just drew it and put it in the anime. It was the same thing with this. So I thought that was cool, having actually been there recently. And I was like, oh, I recognize this. And I like would see a random thing and be like, I was there. So I thought that was actually really cool. But that is it for the non-spoiler segment of this review. So if you have not seen the anime, I highly recommend you guys check it out. Honestly, I think this is one of the anime I don't think where, sometimes it'll be like, oh, you gotta watch like the first two where they should go together. You can just watch the first episode and it'll either get you or it won't, because they don't waste a lot of time. Like, you get a decent lead in, but I feel like maybe it was I think like half the episode is like, all right, half of it's lead up. This is what happened. This is why the characters are like this. And then the second half is like, you're in it and here you go. You like it or you don't. So I think you can honestly watch the first episode and it's like, either you'll know by the end of that 30 minutes. It's like, yes or no. Like, you'll know 100% within that first episode, because what you get is what you get from this anime. And I enjoyed it, which is why I shot through 12 episodes in like 2 days. But that would be it. So go check it out. Officially getting into spoilers, so go check it out. Then come back to this second half of the review and let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. But getting right into spoilers, I always do this, but gotta start with the ending. I thought they did a really good job with that. Kesuke, I want to say that's his name. Hopefully that's how you say it. Him dying, just that scene itself was insane. But the fact that he gets taken over by Nicholas, which I still find to be like the funniest thing. Whoops, sorry about that. I still find it to be like the funniest thing that his name was just like, I'm Nicholas. But the fact that he ends up taking over, like, he basically uses him as his like human form. So it's like the both of them together, because whatever happened, like, he kills, Kesuke kills like the hot fox lady when she becomes human and crushes her, which was also intense after he watches his mom like get boiled, like her flesh comes off and when it goes down to like the meat and then down to the bone. I was like, well, that's intense. Like, that in that first scene where they like crush that girl on top of the school were probably the two most intense scenes. And I was just like, that's nuts. Like, it was just stuff where I wasn't expecting it to go that far. And then after that, Kesuke like actually crushing the woman But he turns into this orb. Nicholas uses him to become human, or partly human. And then it's like, okay, we find out that he it's so hard to explain because it's all time travel. But him in the present, which would be like episode 9 or something, I think is when that happens, or maybe it was 10. Him doing that is what allowed for him to transform into like the crazy mech that no one, it just poof, it pops out of nowhere and no one knew what the heck it was. But it was talking to Daisuke like, you're a failure and the only thing that you want is for people to recognize you. You don't actually care about being the hero. You just want to look like the hero. And then he comes in at the end when they're fighting in the city, and then he actually ends up saving Mari Mari. And I was like, this is crazy. And it turns out to actually be him, but also a blend between him and Nicholas. So that's why he ends up saving Mari Mari, because that scene was like, he's fighting with Daisuke, and so that would be like the Nicholas half, where it's like, I hate this dude, I gotta kill him. He's like the main character. But then Kesuke sees that one of his best friends is about to get killed, so he's like, oh crap, I have to protect her. So we see that split. That's like the only time we see it in the robot form, at least. But I thought it was so interesting. And before they explained it, I was like, okay, so maybe it could be a future version of Daisuke or something, where like he ends up, losing the battle. He ends up dying or something. And he's sent through time a bunch. So he ends up hating himself and trying to kill himself because he like went crazy. I had like a few theories on that, but it ends up being Kesuke and Nicholas fused together, because Nicholas like took the orb and, turned human. And so then we see him at the end, and he's like, I'm basically all powerful. He kills like the little maid girl or whatever, kills her off, and is like, yep, I'm just going to travel through time, do whatever that if I want. I'm going to erase you from history and kill you off so that I can be the main character and be like this super cool person. And it was just like, this is nuts. This dude was just the main villain the whole time. He was just the crazy dude. And it was just interesting to watch. And I loved the last couple of episodes where he's like, I'm in every single point in time. And so he's talking with Guy, Lou, and Mari Mari, and then he's also in the past talking to everybody and like holding Daisuke hostage as a kid and talking to him as the teenage version. And then he even goes back just to taunt like the little lolly girl, just because he wanted to do that. Like there was no significance to that scene. He just did it because he was a douchebag. And so it was like, I love how that was playing out. And so he talks about how he kept trying to do it, but he was always, he kept getting stopped. Like something was always in the way. Somehow he just kept failing. And then, Daisuke kills him, and, that's how we get that explanation afterwards. And he's like, you can kill me, but I'm in every conceivable point in time. So, like, you killed me here, but if I just jump backwards to, like, the 1 second ago version before you killed me, I'm alive in every conceivable point again. And I like that idea. I thought that was cool. It reminded me of The Flash, actually, because they did that with a specific character. They do it a lot with one particular character who just keeps dying, but technically it's like, well, that was that version of me that lived a month longer than this version of me, so now I'm here again. So it was interesting watching that play out. And then they have like a crazy fight within, or I guess without, space and time. And classic hero stuff. The hero does end up winning, and he's able to split Kesuke from Nicholas. And then I was hoping of, like any classic anime ending was like, oh, a cool happy ending, and Nicholas gets erased, and then Kesuke is able to get pulled out of this weird time displacement area, and so he gets saved and Daisuke gets saved and everybody's cool. But Kesuke has to be like, we're bonded now, so if you try to erase me, I can erase you. So he takes Nicholas away, and he calls on everyone to, get Daisuke out of there. I was like, all right, that's cool. I like the way that was handled. And I thought it was just going to end. I thought it was going to be like, okay, they have this ending, and, they have like, the normal happy speech. It was like, we can, at some point we'll be with our friends again and stuff like that. And it was like, they can of course find Milo. And, they even reference like, she's probably like 25 at this point and stuff like that. It was like, okay, that's simple. It's a simple ending. It could totally end right here. And then they have the ending sequence where we see Milo in London. And that references, I want to say it was like episode 8 or 9 or something, where they say like, yeah, they were going to take, if this succeeded, they were going to take other major cities, which I assume would just be like all popular cities across the world. It wouldn't be like random spots. Excuse me. And so it was going to be like, all popular cities. And then they would jump all those locations into the future so that they could bypass the virus. But Nicholas never wanted to do that anyway. Anyway. So it makes me wonder if, since they seemingly, the revisions were only those 3 characters and all 3 of them were killed off officially, I'm curious if this is actually Milo's people, the Arvs, and they're the ones who actually end up becoming the villains for season 2 because they're like, oh, you didn't do this thing technically, and then things didn't work out the way they were supposed to, so they were like, F it, we got to be the bad guys, and they're the ones who took the other cities. It's totally possible it could still be other revisions, but they just had the 3 characters and then they killed all 3 of them off. I mean, they had the whole base. There's like a million possibilities. There could still be other, revisions that are still the villains, but I'm curious if the Arms would end up being the villains for season 2, if that's, if we end up getting a season 2. But I like the ending. I thought it was definitely cool. Milo, being there, I assume she would get jumped into the future as well. Or maybe she would just find the kids. Like, she wouldn't be within the zone to get jumped in or, sent to the future. But she would find the kids later. And then it's like, all right, we got to figure out what to do. And then they go to the future somehow, I guess. But I would love to see season 2. I might honestly check out the manga if it's still going. I would love to find out that it is actually still going, because I thought it was a good story. I thought it was well done. I like the concept of Daisuke being this character who was like, it's my destiny to be the hero, and he was kind of annoying, but at the same time, it's like, well, he was told that as a little kid. When you're told something that huge as a little kid, it makes sense it would stick with you. It's not like everyone's like, you guys got to stick together. It was like, you're saving everybody, just you. You're the most important, and that stuck with him. And oddly enough, not in a cocky way, but in the way where he was like, I have to protect everybody. And then once he was able to, that's when the cockiness actually came in, because he was just like weird and crazy before, but then when it was true, it was like, okay, now I'm the hero and stuff. And then it was like he finally got what he was waiting for, and then he became a bit cocky with it. So 2 bad things kind of mixed together there. But he ended up learning. He failed, and of course his friend dies in front of his face. So things eventually start to humble the guy and stuff like that. But I like the way it was handled. I like how they did the characters and side characters. The one crazy dude who was like, I want to be, he just wanted to be powerful. Classic thing. I wasn't surprised that he ended up dying. But crazy design for that guy as well. But I like the anime for sure. Of course, would love to know what you guys thought about it. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. Would you want to see a season 2? Would you not want to see a season 2? If for whatever reason you watch this whole spoiler section and you haven't seen the anime at all, just based off of what I described, are you going to end up watching season 1? And would you want a season 2, since I really gave away like everything? So I definitely want to know your thoughts on it, favorite moments from the series, least favorite moments. Definitely what you guys thought about Daisuke, because I thought that was such a unique component to have a character that was like, that he's the main character, he's meant to do all the good stuff, but also he was kind of a douchebag for knowing it. So I would love to know your concepts on how well you think they actually wrote the character. So definitely put your comments down in the comment section below, and of course, thanks for watching.